pupil size. Okay? The pupil size is dependent upon a very sensitive interaction between the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems. Okay? So it's telling you the state, the central integrative state of the brainstem. Okay? A lot or all of the stimulus that you're doing to these children goes through the brainstem. So you can use this brainstem finding of pupil size to tell you if you're overstimulating or not. So when we start off, we're going to measure, usually the child's pupils will be the same size. So after a significant stimulus, I want you to check the pupils again. If one is now bigger than the other or irregular shaped, the child needs to rest for about a minute. Okay? The next thing we'll look at is the dull's eyes reflex. So you'll see when I turn my head, my eyes go the opposite way. So everybody see that? Okay? We're going to look for that reflex, and while that reflex is happening, we're going to be looking for nystagmus. Okay? So when I turn my head, the eye should go smoothly. So if my hand is the eye, so I'm going to turn my head this way, my eyes go this way, and it should be smooth. See? So it should be smooth and complete. It should go to the other side of the eye. If there's nystagmus there, it'll do this. Okay? Watch that again. Okay? Some kids will do this. All the way across. Okay, so we just did a child this morning. They started out with 3 nystagmus to the left. And by the time we were done, I think it was only 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, inconsistently, and sometimes it was smooth.
Yeah. So it went from 3 to 1 to actually smooth sometimes. So that's an indication to you that the stimulus is appropriate for that child, because you're actually instituting positive change. Okay, so first thing we have is pupil size. Second thing we have is movement of the eyes in the dull's eye reflex, looking for nystagmus. Okay? The next thing we have is failure. Okay, so if the child is successfully performing a rehab exercise for 5-6 seconds consistently and suddenly they start to fail, okay, that's the time to put them down and just check some of these parameters, okay, because failing can mean that you've overstimmed them. Now, for the parents here, I really want to emphasize when we're talking about, so what we're doing now is changing brain function, changing neurological function. More is not necessarily better, okay? It's better to have 20 minutes of good, productive therapy that's actually helping the child than it is to have an hour where you're overstimulating them and just putting them backwards. So get that whole thing out of your head about time is like an hour is better than 20 minutes. If we can get 20 minutes of good solid stim where we know we're actually benefiting the child, that's way better than overstimming them. So what I'm saying is if you see your therapist letting the child rest, don't freak out. They're doing it because it's what's best at this point to move your child forward. Okay?
What presentation do you want?
I want no, let's go to conference presentations in progress. And let's do mind. And we'll do mind 2014. Yeah. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is reflexes, pathological reflexes. So some of your children who have corticospinal issues, yeah, you just leave it there, that's fine, will have a positive Babinski sign. Does everyone remember when you do the Babinski sign, you take a sharp, blunt object, okay, like the back of a reflex hammer or a the back end of a pen or something. Rub it on the child's foot, and a normal sign is the toes come down. Okay? Positive sign is the toes flare and go up. Now, these signs are theoretically permanent, but you will change them in the process of therapy. Okay, so some of the time what you'll do is you'll do your therapy, you'll do the Bavinsky, and it'll actually change to normal. Okay, now it's not supposed to happen, but it does. I see it thousands of times a day. So that tells us that you're again doing something that's benefiting that child. That's changing a pathological reflex to normal. Okay? So these are not retained reflexes. Okay, these are not like reflexes from childhood. These are actual pathological reflexes that are supposed to stay permanent. So I want you to measure those three things. Next would be the presence of reflexes. So we do bicep reflex, brachioradialis reflex, patellar reflex. What you'll see in the children is hyperactive reflexes. Okay? What we want is normalization. So if those reflexes that were hyper start to calm down, then you're doing the right thing. Okay? Now, they may not calm down, they may stay hyper, but that's just an indication for you that the therapy that you're doing is progressing. You don't have to do these once a day, like maybe at the end of your session or something. Okay? And just keep track of them in your records. Because when I call, or you call me, or Skype me, or whatever, I'll say, what is the progression of the reflex? What is the progression of the pathological reflex? And it's really good if you can tell me that. Okay? The next thing that we look at is bilateral forehead temperature. Now, it's not to see if the child has a fever. It's got nothing to do with that. The area above the eye on the forehead is supplied by the superior ophthalmologic artery, which has got a direct supply from the brain. So we can actually get an indication of brain activity by measuring the temperature above the eyes here bilaterally. I know it sounds bizarre, but there's been thousands of studies done on this. So what we want to see is a change. Could be a change increasing, could be a change decreasing, whatever. But we want to see a change in the blood flow on one side of the brain from the other. Now, if you're stimulating a left stem, we would expect to see a right-sided brain change. Okay? If you don't freak out, but these are all objective things that we're going to be measuring on the kids. And that way, that gives us a very good record each day what the impact of the therapy is. Okay? Of course, you're going to have subjective measurements also. What is your opinion of how the child has done? What is mom's opinion of how the child has done? What is dad's opinion? What is grandma's opinion? Whatever. Okay, those are subjective. And they will change from day to day, depending on their moods. Okay? So, those are the measurements we're going to start with. Let's go through some of the actual therapies now. Music. The music therapy that we're doing is not sound therapy. It's just music. It's a stimulus designed to stimulate certain areas of the brain. And what we use is Mozart, strings or piano. Mozart, strings or piano. No opera, no big loud horns or drums. Okay, so it's just a constant dun, 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 dun. Everybody knows it, right? We play it in the ear that we want to stim. So if it's a left-sided stem, we put it in the left ear. Doesn't have to be an earplug or anything. If the child doesn't want the earplug, don't worry about it. Just put the music beside them on that side. You can play the music while you're doing the pre-stim. What do we call it? Prep? Prep. While you're doing the prep on the child, because this is going to be a change in your schedule now, because all the children are going to get prepped before they go into therapy. Okay? What the prepping does is it prepares that area of the brain that we want to stimulate the most, gets it ready. It's like a warm-up for the brain. Okay? And what you'll start to see is, once we start doing the prep, the things that the child was really struggling with or failing on before start to become easier. Okay? So just so you realize that's probably going to happen.
Now, when you stim a kid, and the prep happens, how long before you start the like how long is the window of that kind of prep last for?
Yeah, that prep is effective for about 4 hours. Okay? So once you start it, it's going to continue for about 4 hours. And as you work through your stuff, that will maintain that. Now, you may have to, what I suggest is if the child's resting, you can just do some, redo the stim again before you start, if you want. Okay? Now, this is for the parents now, we're going to also give you home exercises to do. All right? And the home exercises are quite simple. In fact, they're so simple you're going to be shocked. What? This can't possibly work. Okay? I've been doing, NASA therapy and giving my kids 15 million drugs and doing all these things. How can this little stuff you're telling me actually work? The reason it works is because we have made it so simple that you will do it. Not just you do it, the child can do it. See, the whole thing is, if they don't do it, it doesn't work. So if the exercises are too complicated or require specific attention and all that kind of stuff, the children won't do it in a lot of cases. You might get a 30% input. We want 100% input. So the stuff we tell you to do is very simple, easy to do. It takes 10 minutes twice a day. Very important to listen to what we say. If we say 10 times, do it 10 times. Don't do it 8. Don't do it 12. Do it 10. Okay? We say do it for 10 minutes. Don't do it 8 minutes. Don't do it 11 minutes. Do it 10 minutes. It's all designed to not blow your nervous system out on your child. You would not be, you'd be amazed. We'd have kids who are progressing amazing. And then bang, they lose everything. And I go, what happened? And mom goes, oh my God, I thought, I did it for 3 hours. I thought 10 minutes would, they were going so well in 10 minutes, I thought I'd do it for 3 hours. Well, so then we have to start again. Okay? So all of this stuff is measured to be conservative, but yet push them. All right? Once we know how they respond, we get aggressive as hell. Okay? But we got to know how they respond first before we start getting aggressive. That takes about 12 weeks. Okay? Now back to the therapies. Okay? The vibration. So we're going to do, just let me run through these. We're going to do music. We're going to do vibration. Vibration is on the sole of the foot, on the calf, on the thigh, psoas, shoulder, bicep, extensor muscles, palm. Now, what will happen is, you do these for about 15 seconds on each area, and you'll see the kids will love this. They will love, yes?
What about the auditory sensitive ones, auditory sensitive ones? Like, I tried one today, and it was like screaming
Because of the sound of the vibration?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what we do?
Vibrators.
Just get an electric toothbrush
Okay.
and use it. Just how it buzzes.
Yeah.
Instead of the big thing, if they're sensitive to it, just get a really small one. Okay? Because what will happen is once they understand what vibration is again, that sensitivity